The first time I suspected something was wrong, it wasn't lipstick or a late-night excuse. It was the way Claire got quiet. She used to fill our apartment with sound. Half-stories, complaints about subway ads, jokes about donors who called themselves visionaries. She talked the way some people breathe. Then, over a few weeks, she started editing herself. Short answers, smooth smiles, phone always face down. I'm Nick, 34. I run a small audio production business, conferences, galas, weddings, anything where a voice needs to carry. My life is meters and cables and catching problems before anyone else hears them. Claire is 32, PR for a non-profit downtown. The kind of job where you smile for photos while you manage crises no one sees. We've been married 7 years, together for 11. Long enough to think we knew the shape of each other's days and to forget that people can change shape quietly. One Friday morning I opened the hall closet to grab a jacket and my fingers hit a hard plastic case behind Claire's coat. Earbuds. Matte black. Expensive. Inside was only one earbud. The other slot was empty. On the rim, a tiny strip of metallic gold with a stamped initial. E. I carried the case to the kitchen. Claire was making coffee, humming like she wanted the room to feel normal. "Have you seen this?" I asked. She glanced, blinked once too slowly, then smiled. "Oh, someone left it at work. I must have tossed it in my tote." "Why is it in the closet?" I asked. "I didn't want clutter," she said. "Too neat, too practiced." "I'll return it." I told myself it meant nothing, but a hum under a clean track doesn't go away. Once you hear it, you start hearing it everywhere. That night her phone lit up on the nightstand. A preview. 2 words. "Elliot, you okay?" Elliot Trent, new board chair. Claire had mentioned him a few times. Efficient, she'd said. High standards. The way she said it sounded like someone trying not to care. I tried to be reasonable. Work people message each other late. Board chairs worry. Nonprofits run on panic and caffeine. But my gut didn't care about reasonable. The next Tuesday, she said, "I'm doing stretch after work." "Stretch?" I repeated. "A class," she said. "Good for my back." "Where?" I asked. "Downtown," she replied. "I'll send it later." She didn't. At 7:30, I sat in my car outside her building, feeling ridiculous. At 7:34, Esh walked out wearing heels and lipstick, not gym clothes. She crossed the street to a black sedan. Elliot stepped out. He didn't wave like a coworker. He touched her elbow like he already knew the distance between them. Claire smiled before he reached her, a private smile. She got in. The sedan pulled away. I didn't chase them. I just sat there until my hands stopped shaking. When she came home at 10:12, she said, "Stretch was brutal." I nodded like I believed her because I suddenly understood the lie wasn't only the words. It was how easy they were. After that, I tried to behave like a normal husband. Dinner, small talk, sleep. But my brain kept switching into work mode. In audio, you don't fix a problem by staring at it. You isolate it. You find its source. You confirm it with a second signal. So I started collecting second signals. Claire began charging her phone in the bathroom instead of on the nightstand. She started taking calls on the balcony even when it was cold. She wore the camel coat more often, the one the earbud case had been hidden behind, like the coat had become part of the script. And Stretch appeared on our shared calendar twice a week, always at the same time, always with no location, like a fog bank you could schedule. One evening I asked lightly, "Want me to pick you up after Stretch?" She didn't look up from her phone. "No, it ends late," she said. "How late?" I asked. She paused. "Late enough," she replied, and smiled like I'd asked something childish. A day later I found a receipt in the pocket of her coat when I was doing laundry, a parking garage slip, not near any studio. It was from the block where Elliot's consulting firm rented executive suites. When I mentioned it, she said, "I ran in for a meeting." You know how it is. I didn't know how it is because my meetings involve coil ties and gaff tape, not garages that cost $40 for 2 hours. That's the thing about cheating in a polished world. It isn't messy by accident. It's messy by design, because the mess forces you to doubt yourself. I kept my face calm and my questions gentle, because I could feel a trap forming. If I acted emotional, she could label me emotional. If I acted suspicious, she could label me paranoid. So I acted quiet. And I listened. 2 weeks later, I was hired to run sound for a museum gala. Easy job, podium mic, wireless packs, a live stream feed. I placed 2 small ambient mics in the room to catch applause and room tone. The kind of mics that make a stream feel alive. During a break, I stepped backstage to fix a crackling cable. I left the recorder running at front of house. When I came back, the meter was peaking, not music. Voices. I put on headphones. A woman laughed softly. Claire. A man answered low and calm. Elliot. They weren't on stage. They were somewhere nearby, behind a wall, close enough for sound to bleed into my ambient channel. Elliot said, "Keep it simple. No surprises." Claire laughed again. "You're the one who hates surprises." Elliot replied, "Only when they end careers." Claire's voice dropped. "Nick won't find out." My name and someone else's secret made my body go cold. Elliot said, "We're close. He'll sign. He always signs." Claire whispered, "He trusts me." Elliot said, "Tomorrow, bring the papers. I'll bring the exit." Claire breathed out a quiet, happy sound. "I can't wait." Nothing explicit, nothing I could point to and call a scene, but it didn't need to be explicit. Intimacy is sometimes just certainty in a voice. I ran the event like nothing was happening, then went home with the audio file on 3 drives and my marriage sounding like a track that had been tampered with. That night I searched my email for anything from Claire's nonprofit. I found a PDF I didn't remember signing. Sponsor form. My company's name was listed as a major in-kind sponsor for their upcoming fundraiser. The value was insane. The obligations were huge. Full production, multiple days, press appearances. And at the bottom was my signature. Close, convincing. Not mine. I opened my sent folder. There was an email I hadn't sent from my account to Claire's with the form attached. Subject, sponsor form, signed. That was the moment my stomach flipped from heartbreak to something colder. Cheating hurts. But being used like a tool is a different kind of betrayal. It turns love into leverage and turns your trust into a resource someone else spends. I checked my account security settings. A recent login location blinked on the screen. A downtown IP address, not ours. It was registered to an office building I recognized from the parking slip. Elliot's building. So it wasn't only Claire using my passwords. Someone else had reached into my life like it was a drawer. I called Lena, a friend who handles contracts. Her voice went hard the moment she saw the PDF. "That's fraud," she said. "And the way it's written, it tries to bind your company. You need to document everything and protect yourself first. Don't walk into an argument with nothing but feelings." The next morning, Claire said, "Board emergency. Late night." I smiled and said, "Sure." When she left, I called the nonprofit's finance manager. I kept my voice polite. "Hey," I said, "I'm just confirming what you received from my account. Can you forward me the sponsor packet for my records?" 10 minutes later, it landed in my inbox. My logo was on a sponsor tier I'd never agreed to. My in-kind value was inflated like a brag. My obligations were written like a trap. They weren't just lying to me. They were lying through me, using my name to impress donors and lock services into place. I drafted an email to the finance manager, the event director, and the board contact. Calm, professional. It said my signature was forged. It said I did not authorize the sponsorship or obligations. It requested my name be removed until the matter was clarified. I attached the signed PDF and asked in plain words who had uploaded it and from where. Then I did something that surprised me. I scheduled the email to send at 9 a.m. the next day instead of sending it immediately. Not because I wanted drama, because I wanted them comfortable. Comfortable people make mistakes. Comfortable liars stick to their scripts. And I needed one more piece, proof that Claire wasn't just sleeping beside me. She was steering something with Elliot's hand on the wheel. That night, Claire came home with takeout and a bright smile, like she'd decided to be extra kind. She asked about my day and laughed at my answers. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. It felt like a stage cue. Halfway through dinner, she said, "I'm proud of you." "For what?" I asked. "For being steady," she said. "You always keep things from falling apart." Steady. The word landed like an accusation and a compliment at the same time. Later, while she showered, her phone buzzed again. I didn't pick it up. I didn't want to be a man who searched his wife's messages for pain. But her laptop sat open on the couch. We used it for streaming, and her password had always been the same, like she believed familiarity was safety. I didn't dig through photos. I didn't read everything. I searched one word. Elliot. A folder popped up, not hidden, just there. Inside were drafts, sponsor lists, talking points, and a PDF labeled Schedule. The schedule wasn't about events, it was about secrecy. Tuesday, same route. Don't park out front. Nick thinks it's a class. Keep it clean. Then, a line that made my throat tighten. You hate consequences more than you hate lying. That wasn't a coworker talking. That was control. I closed the laptop and went to bed without waking her. I lay in the dark and listened to her breathing, wondering how long she'd been living a different life a few inches away from mine. At 8:58 a.m., while Claire showered, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. You don't want to do this. Another. Think about your business. A third. You'll regret making enemies. My stomach turned. Elliot didn't just have an affair. He had reach, and he didn't mind using it. At 9, the email sent. Claire walked into the kitchen with wet hair and her phone ringing. "Why is Victor calling me?" she asked. "The sponsor form," I said. "The one with my forged signature." Her face went blank, then flushed. "I didn't forge anything," she snapped. I slid my laptop toward her. "It's in my sent folder," I said, "from my account, with a fake signature, and there was a login from Elliot's building." Claire's eyes widened. She recovered fast. "That could be a mistake," she said. "You're spiraling." Claire's first instinct wasn't regret. It was to turn me into a story. She answered Victor, voice bright and calm. "Nick is stressed," she said. "He's been under a lot. I'm handling it." There it was, the narrative where I was unstable and she was responsible. I said, "I heard you." Claire froze. "Heard me?" "I have audio," I said. "You and Elliot. My name. He'll sign." Fear flashed in her eyes. She tried to replace it with anger. "That's insane," she said. "You recorded me?" "I recorded a room mic at a public event," I replied. "You were just close enough for truth to bleed through." Then her phone rang again. "Elliot." She answered on speaker by accident, or because her hands were shaking. Elliot's voice filled our kitchen, calm, controlled. "What happened?" he asked. Claire swallowed. "Nick sent an email." Elliot paused. "Nick," he repeated, like my name was a lever. I said, "You accessed my account and forged my signature." Elliot sighed. "Let's not use loaded words." "It's fraud," I replied. Elliot's tone didn't change. "You're emotional," he said. "Delete the audio. We can clean this up." Clean. That word again. The word people use when they mean erase. "You don't command me," I said. Elliot's voice sharpened just a fraction. "You don't understand consequences." "I'm starting to," I replied. Elliot said, "Claire, come to my office." "Now." Claire looked at me like she expected me to stop her. I didn't. She grabbed a tote and left with wet hair and shaking hands. The door clicked shut. The apartment got quiet in a new way, like it had finally stopped pretending. After Claire left for Elliot's office, I didn't follow her. I stayed in the apartment and walked room to room like the air had changed density. On the counter, her mug sat half full. On the couch, a throw blanket she loved was folded the way she liked it. The house looked the same, and that was the problem. A life can look intact while it's already been pulled apart. Priya's first instruction was simple. Stop thinking like a husband, she said. Think like someone protecting an asset. Your business is an asset. Your name is an asset. Your time is an asset. I hated that language. It sounded cold. But it also sounded like the only language Elliot respected. I pulled every login alert from my email account, every device history, every password reset attempt. I saved screenshots. I printed them. I labeled them with dates like I was building a timeline for a client. Then I checked my studio. Nothing had been stolen. But one of my road cases was unlatched, not open wide, just unlatched like someone had tested it and decided I should know they'd been there. Inside, my handheld microphone sat in its foam cutout at a slight angle, not perfectly aligned the way I always keep it. A tiny change designed to make me feel watched. I locked the studio, set my own camera inside the doorway, and tried to convince myself I was overreacting. But the blocked number calls kept coming. No voice, just breathing and a faint click at the end, like a metronome, like someone keeping time. That evening a bouquet appeared outside my apartment door. White lilies, the flowers Claire always said smelled like funerals. No card. It wasn't subtle. It was a reminder that Elliot knew our details. That Claire had handed him my life like a file. I threw the lilies in the trash chute without touching the petals. Then I washed my hands like I could scrub off the feeling of being handled. The next day, Elliot emailed me from an address so polished it looked like a law firm. Subject: let's resolve this. Nick, I respect you. This is getting bigger than it needs to be. I want to meet man to man. No lawyers. Coffee, 7 p.m., Atrium Lounge. We can clean this up. Clean again. Priya read it and said, he wants to control the room. He wants your mouth to say something he can later call an agreement. What if I record the meeting? I asked. Priya's voice stayed calm. What if you don't give him a meeting at all? So I replied with 2 letters. No? 10 minutes later, a new email arrived. Then maybe you'll prefer paperwork. Attached was a draft mutual release, a document that offered me a small payment if I agreed to withdraw my complaint, delete any recordings, and sign a non-disclosure agreement that would forbid me from mentioning the nonprofit, the board, or Elliot's name. The payment amount was insulting. It wasn't even enough to cover the work they'd tried to trap me into providing. But it wasn't about money. It was about buying my silence in a way that looked respectable. I forwarded it to Priya. She replied, do not sign, keep it. It shows intent. That night Claire called. I answered on the 3rd ring because part of me still wanted to hear her voice and know she was alive. She sounded like she was speaking from a room with expensive air conditioning. Nick, she whispered, please. Where are you? I asked. A pause. Then Elliot's office. Of course, I said. She swallowed. He says you're making him look bad. You made him look bad by doing what he did, I replied. Claire's voice cracked. I didn't think he'd come for you, she said. I thought he'd just fix it. Fix what? I asked. Your guilt? Silence. Then Claire said, in a smaller voice, I was tired, Nick. I was tired of being the person who wrote the words for other people to sound important. That doesn't excuse it, I said. I know, she whispered. But he made it sound simple, like we could start over. Like I could finally be someone who mattered. The word mattered hung between us like a confession. I said, you mattered to me. Claire exhaled, shaky. That's the worst part, she said. I know. Then her voice changed, sharper, like someone had entered the room. I have to go, she said quickly, and the line went dead. I stared at my phone and realized how hard it is to compete with someone who's physically standing there, controlling the air around the person you love. 2 days later, I got a call from Jade, one of Claire's coworkers. We'd met at holiday parties and charity runs, always in passing. She never called me before. "Nick," she said, breathless, "I shouldn't be doing this, but I can't sleep." "What's wrong?" I asked. Jade hesitated. "Elliot," she said. "He's done this before." I stayed quiet. Jade continued, words spilling now that she'd started. 2 years ago, another PR director left suddenly. Everyone thought she moved, but she didn't move. She vanished. She signed some agreement, and then she was just gone. We weren't supposed to ask. My stomach tightened. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I saw your company's logo on the sponsor list," she said. "And I saw the look on Claire's face this week. She's terrified, and he's acting like he owns the building." Jade took a breath. "He keeps insurance," she whispered. "He brags about it when he's angry. Screenshots, recordings, emails. He says it's safer because people are unreliable." That matched what Claire had hinted. Jade added, "If you want anyone on the board to listen, talk to Dr. Hahn. She's the only one who doesn't flinch when Elliot raises his voice." I thanked Jade and promised I wouldn't use her name. After we hung up, I sat in my studio and stared at the wall of cases and cables. People like Elliot don't only cheat, they run systems, they harvest leverage. And everyone around them learns to live quietly inside the shade. Maya came by again that night and said, "You look like you're waiting for impact." "I am," I replied. She sat beside me on the studio floor like we were kids again. "Then make your own impact first," she said. So I did. Priya arranged a formal meeting with 2 board members, including Dr. Hahn and the Nonprofits Council. Not a dramatic confrontation, a clean room with coffee that tasted like paper. I brought documents. I brought the forged signature. I brought the login alerts tied to Elliot's building. I brought the audio transcript lines about signing, not the intimate parts, just the parts that showed planning. I watched Dr. Hahn's face while she read. Her expression didn't change much, but her eyes sharpened. "This isn't a misunderstanding," she said finally. "This is a pattern." The council asked, "Do you believe your wife acted under pressure?" I answered honestly. I believe she made choices, and I believe Elliot made sure those choices were expensive to undo. Dr. Hahn nodded once. "That sounds like him," she said quietly, like she was naming a storm. They promised an independent review and asked for time. When I left the building, I found my car's side mirror folded in. Not broken, just folded, a small, deliberate touch. A reminder. Elliot didn't have to shout. He could whisper with objects. That night, after the board meeting, a new voicemail hit my phone from an unknown number. No greeting, just Elliot's voice, calm and close. "You like evidence," he said. "So here's something you can file." Then a faint sound underneath his words, almost like a hiss of air in a hollow ring. My brain caught it automatically. Reverb, a specific kind of room tone. My studio. He wasn't just threatening me. He was telling me he'd been inside my space again, and he wanted me to know it. I saved the voicemail and sent it to Priya without replaying it a second time. Some sounds are meant to live in your head. I refused to give him that rent-free. I walked through the studio with every light on, checking locks, checking corners, knowing the real point wasn't entry. It was intimidation. That afternoon, I hired a lawyer named Priya. She moved fast. She froze shared finances. She sent formal notices. She told me to stop talking to anyone who wasn't documented. Then my business reviews started falling like stones. 1 star. Unstable, aggressive, avoid. It was a pressure campaign dressed up as feedback. My phone rang from blocked numbers. No one spoke, just breathing. A faint click, like someone wanted me to know they had time. Priya said, "Document it, don't react. Move this into a system he can't charm." "A system," Claire called. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, trembling. "Elliot is furious," she said. "He says you're going to ruin everything, please." "Stop." She sounded afraid of him, not me. That fact settled in my chest like a weight. That evening, my sister Mia came to my office with 2 coffees and no questions until I was ready. When I finally told her, she didn't gasp. She didn't cry. She just said, "Okay, tell me what you need." "I need my brain not to break," I said. Mia nodded. "Then we do this in steps," she replied. "You don't fight a wildfire by shouting at it." Her calm made me realize how much I'd been holding my breath. Mia asked one thing that kept echoing. "Is Claire doing this because she wants him," she said, "or because she wants what he represents?" I didn't know. But I knew the difference mattered. Wanting a person is messy. Wanting an escape is dangerous. 3 days later was the Hartwell fundraiser, the nonprofit's big night. The night Elliot had been building toward. Victor, the event director, called me. "Nick," he said, exhausted, "we still need sound." Our vendor backed out. "Can you take it?" I laughed once. "After you used my name?" Victor exhaled. "We removed you," he said. "The board is in crisis. Elliot is, making it worse. We just need the event to survive." I thought about staying home and watching the whole thing burn. Part of me wanted that because pain loves company. Then I remembered Elliot's calm voice in my kitchen. "Delete it." And I realized the best way to stop a man like that wasn't to yell. It was to take away his microphone. Legally, professionally. I said, "Send me a clean contract," and Priya reviewed it. One clause mattered most. "All audio captured by my equipment remains my property for operational and legal purposes." Victor signed because he didn't have the luxury of arguing. Before I hung up, Victor added, "Nick, I didn't know. Elliot told us you wanted to donate. He said you'd be honored." "He says a lot," I replied. Victor went quiet. "Yeah," he said. "He does." The night before the fundraiser, Claire came back to the apartment. I didn't invite her. She showed up with a key she still had and a face that looked like she'd been practicing for court. She held a folder in her hands like it was a shield. "Nick," she said, "we need to talk." I didn't move aside. "You don't live here right now," I said. "I know," she replied, voice tight. "I'm not here to move back." She opened the folder and slid a check toward me. I stared at it. The amount was bigger than Elliot's NDA offer, but still not enough to buy a life back. "What is this?" I asked. "A settlement," she said. "Elliot wants this to end." "So he sent you," I replied. Claire flinched. "He didn't send me," she lied, then corrected herself. "He suggested it." I picked up the check and felt my hands stay oddly calm. "You think money makes this okay?" I asked. Claire's eyes filled. "I think it keeps you safe," she whispered. "From him," I said. She didn't deny it. I set the check down. "No," I said. Claire's shoulders sagged. "Nick, he's not going to lose," she said. "He doesn't lose. He changes the rules." I looked at her. "And you still want to stand next to him?" Claire shook her head, tears spilling now. "I don't know what I want," she said. "I just know he has things." "Then stop giving him more," I replied. Claire wiped her face hard, angry at herself. "You don't understand," she snapped. He made me feel like I could finally breathe. "And what did I make you feel?" I asked. Claire's mouth opened, then closed. "Safe," she whispered. The answer hit like a punch. Safe. Not seen, not chosen, not exciting, safe. I nodded slowly. "So you traded safe for oxygen," I said. "And now you're shocked you're suffocating." Claire's jaw trembled. "I didn't think it would become this," she said. "I didn't think he'd start threatening you." "I did," I replied. The second he spoke to me like I was a child. Claire looked at the check, then back at me. "If you don't take it," she whispered, "he'll come after your business harder." "Let him," I said, surprising myself. Claire stared at me, then whispered, "He told me you'd break." I leaned closer. "Tell him he finally met the part of me that listens," I said. Claire's face crumpled. She turned, walked out, and for a moment I thought she'd leave forever. Then she stopped at the door and said without turning around, "If he corners you, don't argue. He wants you angry. He wants you loud." Then she left. I stood in the doorway long after, holding the quiet advice of the woman who had betrayed me and was still trying, in her own broken way, to keep me alive. Fundraiser night, I arrived early. Black clothes, neutral face, work mode. Claire arrived in a red dress. Elliot arrived 10 minutes later, suit perfect, smile polished. When Elliot saw me at the console, his eyes tightened. "What are you doing here?" he asked, smiling for anyone watching. "Working," I replied. He leaned closer. "You're not welcome." "Then don't listen," I said, and kept my hands on the faders. The event started. Speeches, smiles, applause. Elliot talked about integrity like it was a brand. He thanked partners and supporters like he owned them. Victor's hand shook when he stepped off stage. "He thinks he can talk his way out," Victor whispered to me. "He thinks donors will follow him." "Maybe they will," I said. "But donors don't like paperwork that smells wrong." During dinner, Victor rushed back, pale. "The board wants him off the stage for closing," he whispered. "They found more about the forged form. Elliot refuses. He's in the green room, yelling." Behind the curtain was the green room. My ambient mic sat nearby, meant to catch applause. Sound travels. I lifted my headphones and turned the ambient channel up slightly. I heard Elliot's real voice, sharp now. "You promised me he'd be quiet," Elliot snapped. Claire's voice trembled. "I thought he would." Elliot hissed, "You think feelings matter?" Claire said, "Don't talk to me like that." Elliot laughed. "If you don't fix this, I'll hand them everything, every message, every photo. I'll say you forged it. You'll be the scapegoat." Claire gasped. "You said you'd protect me." Elliot replied, calm again, "I protect what serves me." Then, quieter like a knife, "Go smile. Go be useful. I made you. I can unmake you." My hands shook. Claire had betrayed me, yes. But Elliot was the kind of man who turned betrayal into a system. I hit record on the ambient channel. Clean, time-stamped, backed up. Then I built a quiet gate. I didn't cut Elliot mid-speech. I didn't humiliate him with feedback. I simply rerouted the podium mic to a channel only Victor could activate, and I left Elliot holding a handheld that would work only if Victor handed it over. Control without spectacle. Closing remarks. Victor stepped to the podium first, voice shaking but steady enough. "Before we close," he said, "the board has accepted Mr. Trent's immediate resignation as chair, effective tonight." A murmur rolled through the ballroom. Elliot stood behind Victor, smiling too hard. He reached for the handheld mic. Victor didn't give it to him. Elliot tried to speak anyway. No sound. For the first time, Elliot looked like what he was. A man without his voice. He walked off stage with dignity because dignity was his favorite mask. But when he passed my console, his eyes met mine and the smile disappeared. He mouthed one word. "Careful." I didn't blink. I just kept my hand steady because that's my skill. After the event, Claire approached me in a hallway, mascara slightly smudged. "You heard," she whispered. "Yes," I said. Her lips trembled. He was going to throw me under the bus. "He still might," I replied. She nodded, shaking. "I didn't know he was like that." I looked at her. "You knew enough to lie," I said. She flinched, tears falling now. "I'm sorry." Then she whispered, "He has things, screenshots. He keeps everything. He said it's insurance." A collector. A trap. Priya was on speaker when Claire finally forwarded the message thread and the note list she'd kept, dates, tasks, and one line that made my stomach twist. "Mate Nick sign." Claire stared at it and said, barely audible, "I wrote it so I wouldn't forget who I was becoming." After the fundraiser, after Elliot mouthed, "Careful," and vanished into his car, I didn't go home right away. Victor and Dr. Hahn pulled me into a small office behind the ballroom. Counsel was on speaker. Do you have anything documented from the green room? Dr. Hahn asked. I looked at Victor. Then I looked at the closed door. This was the moment where a private pain becomes a public record. Yes, I said. I recorded the ambient channel. It captured his threat. Counsel's voice sharpened. Send it to us, she said. Now. I did. I sent the file with the timestamp and my chain of custody note. Dr. Hand's shoulders dropped slightly, like a weight had finally found a place to rest. Thank you, she said. Outside, the parking garage smelled like concrete and rain. As I reached my car, a voice behind me said, Nick. Elliot. He stood in the shadows between pillars, suit jacket unbuttoned, smile almost gone. You enjoyed that, he said softly. I kept my voice calm. I worked, I replied. Elliot stepped closer. You think you won, he said. You don't know what winning is. I didn't move. You resigned, I said. Elliot chuckled. I stepped aside, he corrected. There's a difference. He held up his phone. I have a folder, he said. Your wife's messages, your wife's mistakes, your wife's fingerprints. I felt my jaw tighten. Threatening her doesn't make you powerful, I said. It makes you small. Elliot's smile twitched. Careful, he said again, like it was his favorite flavor. Then he leaned in and spoke so quietly I had to tilt my head to catch it. I can make people stop calling you, he whispered. I can make clients forget your name. I can make you a rumor. All you have to do is delete what you have and walk away. I stared at him. You keep saying clean, I said. What you mean is erase. Elliot's eyes hardened. What I mean, he said, is survive. I took a breath. I'm surviving right now, I said. You're the one scrambling. For the first time, Elliot's calm cracked. Anger flashed across his face, hot and quick. Then it vanished. His smile returned. Okay, he said. Then listen. He tapped his phone and held it out like he was showing me a photo. On the screen was my studio door. A close-up. Then a second image, my studio interior, my camera, my road cases. My stomach turned. People move through spaces, Elliot said pleasantly. Sometimes doors aren't as locked as you think. I didn't speak, because I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. Elliot lowered the phone. Keep listening, he said almost kindly. You'll hear the moment you should have stopped. Then he walked away, leaving my fear behind like it was a gift. I drove to my studio instead of home. The door wasn't broken. Nothing was stolen. But my camera had been turned to face the wall and the red recording light was off. Someone had been inside. They hadn't taken my gear. They'd taken my sense of safety. I sat on the studio floor in the dark and realized this wasn't over just because a board said the word resignation. Elliot didn't lose. He repositioned. And I had to decide if I wanted to live in a world where men like him keep collecting leverage, or if I wanted to be loud enough, legally enough, to make the collection stop. The next morning, Priya met me at the studio with 2 uniformed officers. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted a record that wasn't mine alone. I showed them the login alerts. I showed them the photos Elliot had flashed. I showed them the camera that had been turned off. One officer walked the space slowly, scanning corners. He didn't find fingerprints. People like Elliot don't leave fingerprints. But he did find something small wedged behind my workbench. A tiny metallic gold strip like a sticker edge. The same kind that had been on the earbud case. A calling card. Priya's voice stayed steady. You don't respond to that, she told me. You keep it. You hand it to the investigator. You let systems do what systems do. So I did. I sent copies of my files to counsel. I stored backups off-site. I stopped sleeping in my apartment for a few nights and crashed at Mia's because I didn't trust the quiet anymore. Claire called once, then texted. I'm sorry. He's spiraling. Please be careful. It was the first time she sounded like she meant my safety more than her comfort. I didn't reply with forgiveness. I replied with one sentence. If you want out, help the record. A minute later, she sent a single photo. A screenshot of a folder on Elliot's laptop. Inside were subfolders labeled by names, dates, screenshots, notes, insurance. There were a lot of names. Not just hers. Claire followed with a second text. He does this to people. He collects them. I stared at my phone until my eyes blurred because the affair had felt personal, like a wound aimed at me. Now it looked like a machine that had run over multiple people, and I'd simply become the newest tire mark. Claire and I finalized the separation quietly. No speeches. Just signatures that felt heavier than any sponsor form. 2 months later, the nonprofit announced a leadership transition and a commitment to improved controls, public language for panic and legal cleanup. Elliot disappeared from press photos. His firm posted a bland statement. The board didn't say his name again. But I still got blocked number calls sometimes, shorter now, less confident. Like the person on the other end wasn't sure the old power still worked. Then, on a quiet Sunday, another package arrived. No return address. Inside was the earbud case. The same matte black one, both earbuds inside now, and under it a small USB adapter. I stared at it, and my hands went cold because this wasn't a normal gift. It was a delivery. I plugged the adapter into my laptop. A single audio file opened automatically. 37 seconds. Elliot's voice clear and close like it had been recorded in a small room. "Keep it light," he said. "No drama. People love the story when it's simple." A woman laughed, young and nervous. Elliot continued, "If he pushes, make him look unstable. That's always the move." Then, like an afterthought, he added, "And don't worry, I always keep a spare earbud. It reminds them they're being heard." The file ended. My throat went dry. The recording wasn't aimed at me. It was aimed past me. It was proof he was already rehearsing the next version of this with someone else. I sat there in silence, not because I didn't know what to do, but because I finally understood the last betrayal. Claire hadn't just cheated. She'd been replaced in the machine the moment she became inconvenient. And I wasn't special either. I was just the last man who refused to sign. I saved the file, sent it to Priya, and looked out the window at a city full of people going to brunch and pretending the world was clean. Then I picked up my phone and blocked the unknown numbers one by one, not because I believed it would stop everything, but because I was done letting anyone else control my soundscape. Somewhere out there, Elliot was building a new story. But for the first time, I wasn't in his mix. And if he ever tries again, I'll hear the hum the moment it starts.